Hey everyone, it's Father Sean for another episode of The Couch Chat. And something that happened over the last week is that we got access to the Disciple Maker Index. So if you remember back in January and February, we took a survey that was done by the Catholic Leadership Institute. It happened through about half the parishes in the Archdiocese. Over 500,000 Catholics have taken this survey. So there's just like a lot of great data to compare things to and just kind of look at to see where we are, to see maybe where we could go, maybe some things we need to address. Just it'll take a little while to digest. Actually, there's the Catholic Leadership Institute has 3 webinars on just how to digest and what to do with the data, and we've had one of them. So we still got 2 more to do. But a couple brief thoughts, right? There's so much there that you can't share it all at once, and I haven't looked at it all. So the first thing is who took this. In our parishes, 91% of the people who took this go to Mass every single week. So just remember, everything, all that we're describing is our weekly Mass goers, right? It's not the people who don't come to Mass. It's not the people who are, registered Catholic but never come. Those weren't generally, by and large, the people who took this survey. So that's basically those who are here week in and week out, what we're dealing with, or who we're hearing from. Maybe that's the right way to put it. So, for example, and then you could do all these national comparisons. So one of the questions was about are a lot of the questions about spiritual practices and the frequency which people do certain spiritual practices. And one of the questions was about Eucharistic adoration. How often do you go to Eucharistic adoration? You could put never, you could say quarterly, 1 or 2 times a year, monthly. And probably not a shocker that our parishes performed well above the national average. So the national average is 28% of people say they go to adoration at least monthly. Spend time in Eucharistic adoration. In our parishes, 39% of people say they go to Eucharistic adoration at least monthly. So not a surprise there. With 2 adoration chapels, there's a great love for Jesus in the Eucharist, a great love to get to spend time with him before the Blessed Sacrament. For this week, though, there was one question that I was curious about that I went and I dug around to see, just to see how people responded. And that was the question, how often have you invited somebody to consider the priesthood or to consider religious life? Now, we performed slightly above the national average in both of these questions. However, the frequency with which people invite somebody to the priesthood or religious life for all Catholics is it's a little shockingly low. So 20% of people, this is our parishes, 20% of people said they invite somebody to the priesthood at least 1 or 2 times a year. That means 80% said never. 20% invite at least 1 or 2 times a year, 80% never. And for religious life, 23% say they invite somebody to religious life, consider religious life, at least 1 or 2 times a year, and 77% said never. So this Sunday, we celebrate the World Day of Prayer for Vocations. And that's, of course, very important, that we beg the Master of the Harvest to send out laborers. And it's always this Sunday because the readings, the 4th Sunday of Easter, are always from the Good Shepherd discourse. So we always hear about the Good Shepherd, and we pray that the Lord may raise up shepherds. And of course, very important to pray. But imagine how many more vocations we might have if we all invited. If we all invited a young man or a young woman to consider the religious life, whether it's as a religious sister, a religious brother, a religious priest, or as a parish priest, and just to look for those qualities in people and to raise up people to fill those roles. And I think it's important for all of us. Of course, it's particularly important for priests, for parents too, for their own children to encourage that. But I think it's for all of us. Because vocations exist for the entire community. Whether it's a vocation to the priesthood or religious life, whether it's a vocation to marriage, that exists not just for the married people, but it exists for the entire community. So as we enter upon this World Day of Prayer for Vocations, of course, want to ask everybody to please pray for vocations, especially from our parishes. Especially from our parishes. Of course, we had Deacon Jeff Little was ordained a permanent deacon last year. But from our parishes, we haven't had a young man ordained to the priesthood since 2017, which means he entered the seminary in 2008. We had one try it for a little while, and we've had a couple young women enter religious life, and so that's a beautiful thing. But just want to continue to invite people to invite others. This life of the priesthood is an incredible gift. And I know those who are called to religious life, it's a vocation that speaks to the depths of their heart. And so the Good Shepherd's calling. And maybe we have to listen, to encourage people to listen for the call of the Lord in their voice, and ultimately for ourselves to listen for the Lord's vocation, to see maybe He is urging us, propelling us to invite somebody to consider a religious vocation. So thanks again for tuning in to this Couch Chat. We'll have another episode next week. Have plenty of time over these coming weeks and months to digest the results of the Disciple Maker Index, but also just ask everybody, as Jesus says, to beg the Master of the harvest to send out laborers for His harvest. So thanks everybody for tuning in to the Couch Chat. God bless you all.